So thank you everyone for showing up for today's webinar. We're going to be talking about Future Generation University's upcoming residential to India, Learn to Make the Change You Wish to See. This will be our second residential since the pandemic. The first just completed yesterday to Appalachia, and by all reports it went very well. So we're excited about that. The next one, as we said, goes to India, and this is one we've done before. We are excited. This is going to be led by Dr. Daniel Taylor and Stephanie Hartman, who's a graduate of the Future Generations Master's Program. Daniel has led this program many times before, is a well-known scholar of Gandhi and practitioner of Gandhi's methods. And so he is with us today, and we'll be talking about the program. Stephanie's not with us, but she has been to India, been to Sevagram before, and as our COO knows the university intimately. So I'm going to do a quick overview of the residential, and then I'm going to hand things over to Daniel to talk about your learning outcomes and where the trip goes. So the residential starts in December with online coursework. You'll have some homework, some readings to do, and then you'll travel to Delhi, India. You'll arrive there on or a little before January 7th. Spend some time in Delhi. Then you'll head on down to Nagpur, fly to Nagpur, and from there drive to Sevagram, which is Gandhi's ashram. And you'll spend about a week in and around Gandhi's ashram, mostly at Sevagram itself, but then we'll take a couple of day trips to some other points of interest around there. Then we fly back to Delhi, and you can either head home that evening, and we'll talk about later, or depending on your flight schedule, a little bit later. About learning outcomes.
Hi, everybody. I welcome especially Hari and Kristen and those who are going to be logging in and watching the recording, of which I know there are a number of you. I just want to say that as you look at the pictures of this Gandhi residential, I'm always struck by how people are smiling. For me, anyway, I'm smiling a lot. I really enjoy leading this course. You've had other courses with me. I've enjoyed each one of those. But there's something truly magical about learning from Mahatma Gandhi. And we do learn from Gandhi by being at his ashram. And it is very relevant to the modern day because the Gandhian lessons are lessons that we can apply. They're not lessons of fighting the British Empire. That was his particular case study. But the methods that Gandhi used are very relevant to us because the core method that Gandhi used was one of mobilizing human energy. And that, of course, is central to Seed Scale and the whole Future Generations Master's Program. And what he was able to do was to mobilize the diversity of Indian human energies towards a common goal. Now, that goal was obviously the independence of India. But he redefined the independence of India as a nation into being the independence of the individuals and from the oppression of poverty, from the oppression of caste, from the oppression of sectarian differences, Hindu and Muslim. And today, we are living in the oppression of poverty as the world moves towards rising inequity, economic inequity between rich and poor. We are again experiencing the divisiveness among people. And we're again, and for instance, men and women and between castes and so on and so forth. So that the objectives that Gandhi was trying to unify towards a common goal are opportunities for us to learn to apply. And that's what we will concentrate on. This is not a history class. This is bringing lessons from history into the present to mobilize your community's potential for action. And each of you will be doing a implementation plan. If you want to do it at the higher casual level, you can do it for course, not for course credit. If you want to really make it serious, you can apply it for course credit. And you have two choices, as we'll be talking about for that. And the point here is that with that plan that you make, you will learn to engage the outside pressures of poverty, racism, gender discrimination, or pandemics, or war, or some of the other divisive pressures that are coming upon us. I leave in 2 days to go to Afghanistan to be with our team there, which now comprises 1,000 people working with Future Generations Afghanistan as employees. And those 1,000 people in Afghanistan, as from Future Generations, are solving local obstacles. And that's why the Taliban is embracing them. That's why I'm growing up a little beard, which those of you may have not seen, because I want to give it as a sign of respect. I'm not bringing American values. I'm helping them enhance their values for their objectives. And that is the task of developing a Gandhian plan to use today. Chris, next slide. Or do I control this here? Folks, there you are. So we arrive in Delhi. Classes begin on the morning of January 7th. Most airplanes arrive in the middle of the night. So if you really want to make a challenge for yourself, you can get an airplane flight that arrives in Delhi in the middle of the night and then show up for class at 9 o'clock in the morning on the 7th. Or I would advise you to come a day earlier and explore Delhi on your own. We'll be staying in the YWCA, which is an international guest house. It's very nice and very safe. And it's in walking distance to a number of very important sites around Delhi, such as the Jantar Mantar, ancient meteorological site, or Connaught Place, which is the old primary marketplace of India. And then as classes start every day, we will take a field trip. One will be into the magnificent chaos of Old Delhi. Delhi is actually two cities, Old Delhi and New Delhi. And Old Delhi is chaotic, especially chaotic in terms of smells. It's what we call smell tourism. And it's really quite exotic because of all the spices. We'll also visit the old Red Fort of Delhi, which was the headquarters of the Muslim Empire, which consolidated many of the Maharajas and kingdoms of India in the 18th and 19th centuries. And then we will have some specific visits to Gandhian sites in Delhi, and most importantly, the place where he was assassinated. And our visit is just 2 weeks before the memorial holiday of Gandhi's assassination. So that's what we do in Delhi. And then next slide. During that time, we take a break and we will take the 4-hour drive in a chartered bus to go from Gandhi to the Agra and see the Taj Mahal. Spectacular. And it's, first of all, just a lot of fun as a tourism site, but secondly, it also gives a chance to drive across the plains of India and see Indian villages out of a bus window, yes, but it gives you a sense of what India looks like. So we'll see this fantastic building that there's no equal on earth, and we will also see the rural countryside of India as we make a round trip drive in one day from Delhi to Agra. The next slide, please, Chris. And then we leave Delhi early in the morning. That's when the flights leave, to fly to Nagpur. And from Nagpur, then a bus will meet us and drive us the hour and a half to Gandhi's ashram at Sevagram. And we will be staying in very simple quarters at Sevagram. There are toilet facilities. It's not that simple that they're not those. They're very clean. They are immediately across the street from the ashram itself. So those of you who want to participate in the ashram schedule and get up on the Gandhian schedule of 5 o'clock in the morning and go sit and listen to these Gandhian prayers, which are done on this porch that you see in this picture. And so a few of us will gather there. People from the ashram will gather. You never know how many show up on any given morning for prayers. And then the day begins with daybreak. And so then our classes start soon, and every day then we will meet on different sites around the ashram to talk about different lessons that Gandhi's legacy gives to us today. And specifically then, from these times together and these talks together, we learn how we can take steps to improve our communities to solve the unique challenges that our communities face. You've taken other Future Generations courses. You know that the lab is the central way that we apply our learning. And so what we will be doing is trying to participate in Gandhi's lab so that which was his ashram, where he was developing the methods that he used for his extension of the liberation movement of India, political, gender, racial, sectarian. And we will use his words and his actions and learn how to apply them for what we can do today using Gandhian methods. So here's an earlier residential where you see students from Namibia and Peru and Bolivia and Ethiopia and Afghanistan and Haiti and Kenya joining us in an earlier residential. Next slide, please, Chris. And then we will take 2-day trips from the ashram. One is to the Vinoba Bhave ashram, which is only a short distance away. Vinoba Bhave is considered the first disciple of Gandhi's, what they call satyagrahi. Satyagraha is the word you will be learning. It means truth energy. And Vinoba Bhave early adopted it, early in Gandhi's program, and then he started a movement after Gandhi died and was assassinated, and he walked all over India for 13 years, talking rich landowners into giving up their land for the poor sharecroppers who lived on the land. And so his legacy is an example of taking Gandhian values of poverty and justice and extending it across India. And so we will visit the ashram. Today it is run by women. And so only women can stay there overnight. But we will stay at the Gandhi's ashram and visit them during the day. And so that's one of the day trips we'll be taking. A second day trip is to Chaitanya Vikas, another Gandhian legacy. It's run by Ashok Bang. Now, what's interesting is Ashok Bang's father was the bookkeeper for the Sevagram ashram. And Ashok himself grew up in the ashram. And then he decided to start his own. His brother started one that's a bit distance away that focuses on community health, but Ashok focuses on agriculture and how you can use traditional agricultural legacies from India and apply them now through modern science to improve food security, and very importantly, using agriculture to restore the environment and also to gain financial independence for the farmer, rather than the tendency in India where agriculture actually becomes owned by big business. So we will see these two applications of nearby programs that come out of the Sevagram program. Next slide, please, Chris. And then we leave, program's over, We drive back to Nagpur, the airport, and then fly to Delhi. And this connections work well so that you could leave on the 18th just to catch your airplane flights back home. You have to wait in the airport 4 hours, 5 hours. It may seem like a long wait, but folks, you avoid the problems of going into Delhi and the traffic and then coming back out if you were trying to catch a flight on the 19th. Future Generations will pay for your accommodations through the night of January 18th. But if you want to go on and do something else in Nepal, in India, one of which could be going to Nepal. For you, those of you who are not Nepalis, of course, Hari is Nepal, that's his home. But you might want to visit some other parts of India. And so that would be something you might want to do on the 19th or 20th, because there's so much fantastic other things to do in India. So that's the course. Chris, back to you.
All right, thank you, Daniel. Appreciate that. So we'll just go over some of the nuts and bolts and some of the logistics of the course. And if you have any questions, feel free to enter them into the Q&A section. So first of all, this is a course, and so coursework will be required in order to earn credit. And all participants have to take the course for credit. You can't go on the course and not do the work. The cost will be the same for you as a student as a 2 or a 3 credit course, depending on how many credits you need or want from the program. So travel costs starting and ending at the airport in Delhi are covered by a generous gift. So all you are paying is the amount that you pay for tuition. So that's regular tuition minus whatever scholarship you might be receiving.
Chris, let me just jump in on this, please, and apologize. The difference between 2 and 3 credits is if you do all the residential and perform in a participatory way, you get 2 credits. If you do a significant lab of how you will apply the residential in your community, you can get a 3rd credit. So I just want to make clear to everybody the difference between how you get 2 credits and how you get 3 credits. So back to you, Chris.
No, very good. Thank you. So accommodations, transportation, and most meals are included. This includes also the guiding costs. Some meals we're going to leave unscheduled, primarily probably in Delhi, so that you can explore on your own. Travel costs to and from India, including passports and visa costs and any COVID testing that's going to be required at that point, those are not included. Those are all on your own. Accommodations will be in shared rooms. There will be a single supplement for a private room where available, but in some places there will not be. You will not be able to have a private or single room or private room. So that single supplement will only cover some rooms, probably in Delhi only. And that is it. Any questions that you have, we'll be happy to answer in the we have maybe 5 or 10 minutes, or we can if you have any questions that you don't want to ask here, feel free to email me directly at chris.roper@future.edu.
Or email me.
Or email Daniel.
And you all have my email as well.
Right. So I have a question here. If I don't need any credits, can I still attend the residential? And yes, you can still attend the residential if you don't need credits to graduate, but you will still have to take the class for credit. So you will just graduate with more credits than you need. That's
and let me explain that, Chris, because it's a very good question that person asked. The It's very difficult to run this program if somebody says in the middle of class, "Oh, I'm not taking this credit, but could you explain to me exactly what Gandhi's Salt March was? Or what is Satyagraha or Savodaya?" Some key terms, for instance, some key ideas, some points of history. We need everybody to learn, otherwise it's compromising it for everybody else. So this is a very active, engaged, we're there in person. There's a lot of sharing, dialogue, brainstorming, and everybody's got to master the basic concepts. Otherwise, you're detracting from other people's learning. So the next question, Chris, I know that there's another.
Sure. Can you talk a little bit more about the accommodations? What are sleeping arrangements like at the ashram, for example?
Okay, the ashram has beds, which of course is the first question because traditional Indian rooms don't have beds. But they are they're Westerners might consider them cots. They're the technical term in India is a charpai, but it's a web charpai, not a rope charpai, and there are mattresses on them. And adjacent to in every room is a bathroom, so each room has an attached bath. The showers are there. They're stand-up showers. They have buckets of water that you splash on yourself. And few of the bathrooms have showers with shower heads, but there are toilets. There's a choice between the traditional Indian squat plate toilet and the Western sitting toilet. There is sinks and mirrors and that sort of stuff. But the point is not to be fancy, but to try to give you an introduction in so far as we can to the simplicity that Gandhi was advocating. And that's the point. They're safe, they're clean, they're also an introduction into the idea of simplicity that was so central to Gandhi. And specifically, if everybody lives a simple life, then it's possible to have an equitable life because there are more resources to be shared. So that's the value that this is bringing forward, not trying to put you in a featherbed comforter. As for food, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. There's a buffet. It's a Gandhian vegetarian meal. It's very delicious. Rice and dal, chapatis, eggs, yogurt, fresh fruit, tea, of course. And but there's no meat because, of course, Gandhi was a vegetarian. And that was very important to Gandhi because Gandhi was trying to stop and end violence towards all living life. So again, you experience what Gandhi wanted people to experience in the diet. And as to the accommodations, there's bazaars up and down the street. So if you need to go get a candy bar or something like that, you can walk down to one of the little tea stops and buy some tea or buy a candy bar, or jump on a scooter rickshaw and go into this town of Wardha and pick up some more supplies. And then Hari, of course, asks the great question here I see about a commencement graduation ceremony. And Chris, you can say more on that, but my understanding is, yes, there will be. And for instance, that means I have to take out my big red robes to officiate at the ceremony, but we will also have the graduation paraphernalia for others. And Chris, I also fill that back to you in your job, you will be coordinating a lot of those affairs. So it's over to you.
Yes. So it right now, I mean, it depends on who is joining the residential and if any of them are graduating, but it seems like there's interest is there from students who will be able to graduate at that point. So yes, we will have a graduation ceremonies at the ashram in India. So that should be exciting. That should be fun. So related to that, if this is your last course, if you need only 2 or 3 credits in order to graduate, then you'll still be able to graduate even if you have not officially earned those credits yet, because you won't earn those credits until the end of this course. But you'll still be able to graduate. We also have a question from Kristen. What is the climate like at that time of year? She assumes that it is different from West Virginia.
You got it, Kristen. It's not January on Spruce Knob, which you are fully familiar with 1 meter high snowdrifts. It's a light jacket, sweater every morning and evening, and shirt sleeve during the day. There are blankets for sleeping, but expect daytime temperatures to be in the 50s and 60s on a Fahrenheit scale, which would be maybe up into the 70s at the middle of the day, but in the lower 50s at night. And at this time of year in January, it would be highly unusual to have any rain. But first of all, this is the era of climate change, and we may have light rains. Usually there's a light rain that starts about 2 or 3 weeks later in January. But one of the reasons we've picked this time now is we don't anticipate rain, and we anticipate evening temperatures in the low 50s and high daytime temperatures in the upper 70s. Right now in India, you don't want to be there because of the temperature. It's over 100 degrees this morning in Delhi. And it may well be 120 here very soon, as it was last week in Delhi.
All right, well, that is all that we have for questions. Again, if you think of anything, go ahead and ask me. Again, that's chris.roper@future.edu, or you can email Daniel. It's daniel@future.edu, and we will be happy to answer your questions. And
let me just add one more thing on cost. Sure. Chris, the cost is explained, of course, on the website. It is possible to take this course for a very basic additional cost, but I would just suggest that everybody shows up with at least $100 cash, or a plastic credit card that you can get some money out of an ATM machine, because it's very hard to be in India without being tempted into some expenses, but all your food and accommodations are paid for. There's a lovely shop, for instance, at the ashram where you can buy hand-spun clothing. And many students who participate like to do some at least Gandhian shopping, if not some from the larger wealth of stuff that's possible from Indian cottage industries, because there's a lot of amazing, beautiful stuff that's available. So that's just another note on cost. And of course, you could spend a lot of money in India, but I'm just saying everybody should be prepared to spend at least $100 over what the course costs are.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Daniel, for talking about the trip. It looks exciting. And we hope to see everyone in Delhi.
And it's a lot of fun, folks. I'm already psyched up about this trip. I've done it many times. My grandparents worked with Mahatma Gandhi in the late 1940s at the end of the freedom movement. And so studying Gandhi and being part of the Gandhian legacy runs deep in my family. And it's always very exciting for me to touch it again. So I look forward to being with you.